Hi, and good afternoon, everybody. I'll try to keep this as brief as possible and turn everything over to Jason. It's his day to celebrate his career and begin to take the next step for him in hockey. I just begin by saying appreciate everybody joining us here on a Sunday afternoon. Be unsurprising to those that know him that one of the key things for Jason was that he wanted to get going on the next phase of his career, but wanted to be very cognizant of the playoffs ongoing and didn't want to do anything on any game day. And once it was announced that the conference final would begin on Tuesday night, it left today as the only dark day of the playoffs for quite some time. So we appreciate everyone jumping on a Sunday afternoon here. From my end, I met Jason personally just under 3 years ago when he came in to my office, and from that day forward, I think it's really difficult to put into the proper context or into words the impact that he's made on our facility and on our program every day. The level of care and the passion he has, not only for the game of hockey, but in genuinely helping every staff member, every player, anybody that really needed any help whatsoever in the off season, at all hours of the day. Every moment that he was a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs as a player was quite remarkable to see. And it was truly an honor to have him as a member of our team, and the legacy that he leaves and the impact that he's made on all of our players and the impact that that's had on their maturation. I think that's best left for them to describe in the coming days and months. But Jason and I have talked the last two off seasons about once his career as a player was coming to an end, what he may want to do. And we felt as an organization, Brendan, myself, our management team, that was definitely someone, because of his passion for hockey, his intelligence, the way he views the game, and his ability to impart that knowledge onto others, that we definitely would want to have him as a member of our front office, and that there was an onus on us for everything that he's done for our organization to ensure that we had a plan and a path for him when his days as a player came to an end. And so he will begin that immediately, starting with our draft and free agency process. And really the goal for the first year in this is that he'll be observing, learning, and taking everything in that he possibly can with regards to being a member of the front office. And then after next season, we will sit down again and find out the parts, whether it's player development, scouting, salary cap, all the different elements of running the club that he's most interested in, and then begin to carve that path. So I'll take some brief questions, but just would really like to get everything turned over to Jason as soon as we can, as it's his day.
Thanks, Kyle. Anyone with a question for Kyle about today's announcement can please use the raise hand function. We'll begin with Luke Fox from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Luke.
Hi, Kyle. Did you have a sense that this was always kind of inevitable, that Jason would join the front office or the coaching staff or something in some respect when he had finally decided to stop playing?
Thanks, Luke. I don't know that it was inevitable because, I think there would be lots of teams that would be interested in having him join their, whatever it may be, player development staff, front office, coaching staff. Just his reputation around the league is so strong. So I never viewed it as certainly inevitable that it would be here. I certainly thought it would be inevitable that if Jason wanted to work in hockey, that he would be able to, using whatever path he wished. So I just think that we're fortunate to have had him as a player here at the end, and that he's willing to join our staff now.
And you've talked so much about all the positive things he brings. Can you think of a specific example, be it a game or with a player that he had a relationship with? Is there a moment or a relationship that really sticks out in how he's added to the organization?
Yeah, there's two moments that I think stand out for me about how special he is. The first one, it was his first season here. It was February of that season. We had played in Buffalo the night before, and we'd played very poorly. And the next day we were in Pittsburgh for a back-to-back, and things were not going well for us at all at that time. We had some injuries on defense, and despite that, the team was not playing well. And the pregame meal in Pittsburgh, Jason without anybody saying anything or asking to do anything at all. I watched as I sat there in the meal room as he made his way around to every member of the roster that needed any encouragement. You know, you know, I left the room and come back, and others had mentioned the same thing. So he wasn't doing it for show. He was doing it out of genuine care to try to influence some positive results, and most notably the time that he had spent while doing that with our younger players that were on the team and how they can make an impact in helping the group. And then, you know, during the summer, you know, there's players who will voluntarily come into the facility, and, you know, whether you're on you know, mostly local players who will want to train there when the gym is open, or go on the ice with older players like Jason and captain skates or what have you. And the amount of time that he's willing to spend, not just with our, you know, the other players that are NHL players and very good players, but all the way down to players signed to ECHL contracts or AHL, ECHL 2As. He treats nobody differently, and was willing to do everything he could to help them. And that, you know, the benefit of that, if you're a player coming in on an ECHL deal or an American League ECHL 2-way contract, and Jason Spezza, who's obviously someone that they've all grown up watching and think very positively of, is willing to donate and give his time when no one would expect it. It's pretty remarkable. So those are the two types of moments that stand out amongst dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of great things on and off the ice that he did well here.
Next, we'll go to Kevin McGran, Toronto Star. Go ahead, Kevin.
Kyle, how much of a conversation was there? I'll ask Jason this, obviously, but how much of a conversation was there at your end about him coming back to play? What was the conversation about retiring like?
Yeah, if I can, Kevin, I think that's more Jason's question to answer, and I can perhaps answer it at another time, but I'd like to leave that to him, especially on this day, if that's okay. And I hope you understand.
Fair enough. I have another question that's sort of more about your front office. With Jason coming in, I understand a couple of guys have left, Jim and Cam have left. How are you remaking your office, and what's sort of the direction you go in there?
I think it's just the end of 4 years, Kevin. And, you know, we've had different people, you know, we've had John Lilly and Troy Bodie get promotions elsewhere last summer. Tim Spelt's the same. So I think that speaks to something that we're very proud of, and that those people did great jobs for us. Other organizations, New York, Seattle, and Vegas, took notice and you know, and hired them away and promoted them with their organization. So you know, it's been 4 years now, and I just thought that, you know, we need to continue to make different changes and alterations. We made changes to the player development staff last year. It's, you know, never, you know, we're happy with where those departments are, but you never want to be complacent, and any chance we can have to add great people in, like in Jason, in his case, we want to do that. So I think we'll continue to look at it here. This was just trying to get Jason's situation clarified, and then we'll have a look at the rest here in the coming week or so.
Next, we'll go to Lance Hornby, Toronto Sun. Go ahead, Lance.
Hey, Kyle. Just wondering, you touched on it a bit, but with one of those moments, I guess, with Jason was what he did in the playoffs. That speech he made, and everyone drew to that as a good example of what he can do. How hard will that be to replace? And I guess would lead to my second question: is this makes an opening for a younger guy or somebody else in the organization? How might that be filled?
Well, I think what we've seen, and Jason can probably answer it firsthand because I'm obviously not in there during those moments, but I think we've seen our younger players as they enter that, you know, 24, 25, 26 range, take major steps in that realm. And this, more than anything, is another push to try to get them to take another step, so that they're not just looking at Jason, or whether looking at, you know, Jason and Joe in the past and the previous season, or just looking to John and Jason and getting those younger guys to continue. Just give them you know, you want to have them the proper guidance, but you also then at times need to give them the proper room to grow and take hold of things. And that's what we're expecting now.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Jonas Siegel from The Athletic. Go ahead, Jonas.
Hey, Kyle, do you have like a hunch as to what Jason is going to be good at in the front office, or scouting or coaching? Like, is there anything that points you in that direction?
I think it'll really end up being Jonas, whatever he ends up being the most passionate about, that he'll have he'll have the greatest success in. The one thing, and just being around him and talking to him, and especially during the beginning of the pandemic when there was so much, interaction with in terms of guidance and back and forth between management, players on what was happening, how we were going to handle different things. I saw his ability to communicate with the players in a different way other than just player to player. It was more of a veteran leader who's done a lot of work in his career with the union and trying to rally the guys and motivate them that way, to kind of all fall into doing things that are going to be most successful for the group. But whether it's scouting, whether it ends up being player development, coaching, salary cap stuff, I think we want to give him the next 13, 14 months to really figure out and immerse himself into all facets and then determine what he's best at. If on my hunch, I would probably say it ends up being player evaluations and pure management items, but we'll see where it goes.
Is that just because of his, he seems to have kind of a knowledge of every player in the games, or something about that you think sticks out?
Yeah, I just think even the last couple of days, once we kind of know this was going to be the way it was going, he and I have already had discussions about certain players, and the way that he evaluates them and looks at them and discusses them leads me to believe that he kind of has that naturally. I think number one, because he played, but number two, I don't think he was someone just content with playing. He wanted to certainly learn as much as he could about the game. And we observed that every day for 3 years. And he wasn't just content with what he saw. He wanted to learn why we viewed things different ways and why people and players may view things that way. So I'll let him jump on that here shortly, but that was my observation.
Last one here, we'll go to Mike Agello. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, Kyle. One of the things that's endeared Jason to the Leaf fan base is the fact that he came back home, took a veteran minimum contract to help a team that's been up against the cap. With his connections around the league, do you think that one of his roles could be sort of recruiting similar veterans to come into the fold for limited salary?
I think that example is well known. It's already kind of manifested itself in another player doing the same thing last week in Mark Giordano. I think we've had a lot of players in the last number of years that were local players that have elected to come back and play here. I remember hearing when the first few years here that local players didn't really want to do that or weren't as keen to do so. And John took that step. We've obviously got other local guys on the team that were drafted here that have really enjoyed it and been key players of our team. And then, once John signed, then Jason the next year, it seemed that sort of opened the door for a lot more local players that wanted to come here and play here for us. So, I'm sure hopeful that's the case. I think you kind of nailed it there, Mike. Us and a lot of other teams with the salary cap were right up against it. So anything helps.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate the time. We'll have Jason join us now. All right, welcome, Jason. If you have a question for Jason, you can use the raise hand function now. We'll begin with Lance Hornby from the Toronto Sun. Lance, go ahead.
Sorry, Jace. Just wondering if you could tell us take us through the past 2 weeks, how hard this decision was and what discussions were like with your family.
Yeah, thanks, Lance. It's been an extremely emotional time for me, a difficult time. The initial shock and awe of the season being over so quickly was hard to get over. I'd say it was probably as heartfelt of a loss for me as going back to losing in the finals. Just because, I really felt we put a lot into this year. And we put a lot into the last 3 years that I've been here, and then to have the same result was very frustrating because I thought we did a lot of things right. So was my initial hurdle to get over, was that. And then you start looking towards the future and talking with my wife and my kids and Kyle and Brennan and Kiefer. I think it's been a difficult time. I think it will be a difficult time moving forward for me too. I don't think this is the end of me looking back and moving forward, but I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to stay within the organization, to stay a part of the club. I'm deeply invested in what we've done here in the last 3 years. I believe in the group, and I think that it's the way that I can continue to contribute for the organization and hopefully help the team get over the top.
A quick follow-up: how difficult to walk away without that cup you wanted so badly, and just shy of 1,000 points?
Yeah, I don't think I can ever put into words how much it means to me to try to win the Stanley Cup. There's definitely a huge void in my heart and in my career without having to be able to win it. I've had many sleepless nights over the course of my career, wondering what I can do differently and what I need to do differently and how I need to change and to win a Stanley Cup, and then to not be able to win a Stanley Cup as a player is it's very difficult. It's my life work, hockey, and to not be able to be a champion in it is hard. But I think that will help me drive towards wanting to stay in the game too. I think it'll never feel maybe the same as being a player, but I'm going to try to win a Stanley Cup as part of as an executive and as part of the organization now, and that'll keep me driven. In terms of being short of 1,000 points, I've always maintained those things are great. Yes, it would have been great to get to 1,000 points. It's a milestone that is somewhat important, but none of it matters. It's a team sport, and maybe me being a few points shy of 1,000 points is a little bit of an incomplete report card, similar to me not winning the Stanley Cup. And that may drive me to have the passion that I still have for the game and want to stay in the game.
Next, we'll go to Kevin McGran, Toronto Star. Go ahead, Kevin.
Jason, congrats on the fabulous career. Kyle basically said you're going to learn a little bit of this, a little bit of that, salary cap, scouting, all these sorts of things. Where do you think your interest ultimately lies as an executive or maybe a coach?
Well, I think it'd be a little presumptuous for me to say where I think I'll be best at. I think the way I've always approached my career was just to put everything into what I was doing at the time. I can't say I've been a guy that's had much of a plan for post-hockey. I'd like to think that all the time I've spent within the game, watching the game, learning about the game, will serve me well now moving forward. I'd always hoped for an opportunity to stay in hockey. Really the most important things in my life are family and hockey, and I don't see that changing. And I'm going to just kind of grow with the role. I think you think you know things, but you really don't until you get behind the curtain. And I feel like I'm stepping into a situation that I don't know a whole lot about, with great people, with Kyle and Brendan to learn under. And I'm going to just, be a good student, learn, observe. We're at a crucial time here of the summer. So I'm fortunate that I get a chance to jump right into it. I think that'll help me mentally in terms of just, trying to turn the page. But to say where my strengths lead, I think that the time here will tell where I thrive and what I enjoy doing.
And just this is a weird one, but maybe it's a trivia question, kind of question. But were you the last guy to use a wooden stick regularly?
I think I was, yeah. I think me and Paul Stastny were the last two guys who were hanging on. So I wish they'd ever stopped making them. I should be using them.
Next, we'll go to Dave McCarthy, NHL.com. Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, Jason, congrats on the unbelievable career. I remember at Locker Cleanout Day, you said you'd still be interested in playing if you felt that you could make a contribution on a nightly basis. I'm wondering, in your talks with Kyle, did it ever get broached returning next year to play, or sort of how that went down that road to arrive at where we are today?
Yeah, I think without getting into specifics of our conversations, I'm fortunate that I've been able to have a strong relationship with Kiefer and with Kyle throughout my time here. So we were able to have just honest discussions of where they were at in terms of vision for the team moving forward, and where I was at as a player. I think I've always maintained I was going to play till the day they took my skates away, because you really want, I really didn't see an end date, and that's very unrealistic. But I felt like the point of my career, the in and out of the lineup towards the end of the season, the days that I was out of the lineup were harder than I think anybody could possibly imagine, probably harder than they should have been. And I think that just shows how much I love the game and how much I cared about it and how much I wanted to contribute. So if I envisioned a scenario where I wasn't contributing every night or being a part of the team nightly or most nights, then I don't feel like I could have the impact with my teammates and be able to carry myself authentically, and B, as a player, you want to make sure that you're leaving the game at a point where you feel like you can contribute. So do I think I can play and help? Definitely at times, but at 39, it becomes harder and harder to do all season. And with good conversations with good people, we determined that this is probably the best step moving forward.
And just to follow up quickly, did you consult with any former teammates that you played with back in the day about how it was for them to conclude their career and any advice that they might offer you?
I did. I spoke with a few people. I really tried to make the decision between myself and my wife and my family. But I have some people that I do lean on, like everybody does. I think a guy that's been around for a long time that, that I talked to told me that I've had the best job in hockey for the last 20 years. And being a player is something you're never going to really be able to replicate. But there are other roles out there, and there are other ways to feel that excitement for the game. But there's no doubt that being a player is special. It's the greatest job you could possibly have. I don't think people will ever understand the daily grind. Just the waking up on a game day and not feeling your best after having a nap, and really getting your body prepped by 7 p.m. to play, and you have a great night and you win a game and you leave there on a high. That's the kind of stuff you're never going to get back. The roar of the crowd, just those moments as hockey players are stuff that I hope I never forget. But there is life after hockey. I'm very fortunate that I have a great wife and 4 very special girls at home. This will hopefully, allow me to spend some time with them, but also continue on in hockey. And we're a hockey family. They know me as being a hockey guy. And I think they'll be happy to know that I have a landing spot in something that I love doing, because I think I'm a better version of myself at home when I'm distracted and involved in hockey.
Next, we'll go to Jonas Siegel from The Athletic. Go ahead, Jonas.
Hey, Jason, I was just wondering what that moment felt like when you made the decision not to play again.
Yeah, I still don't know if I've come to grips with it. I think there's not a defining moment. I think it's just, I'm a pretty realistic guy. I think, as time went on, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do this forever. I also want to leave the team in a good spot. I know you don't want to overstay your welcome as a player either. I think there's a lot of respect that people have for me, and you don't want to use that and take advantage of the situation. And I think that I determined that I think for the team, it's probably best to move forward without me. And for me as a player, if I can't contribute every night, it was just time. So I don't know if there's a moment, and I don't know if I'm even fully okay with it, but I'm really excited about being able to stay with the organization. It's going to make me feel like I'm still part of the team, which I am, and it'll help my retirement process. It was never going to be easy for me, and I don't think it will be. But to have people like Brendan and Kyle to learn under, and people that I get along with, is something I'm really looking forward to.
And is there part of your playing career that you're most proud of? Maybe something on the ice, even off the ice? Is there a moment, situation, anything like that?
Well, I think it's 2 different categories. Like, I think playing wise, my time in Ottawa was my best time as a player through my prime. Being a part of those great Ottawa Senator teams that went to the finals, knocked on the door, tried to get over the hump. We kept our teams together for a long time, and that allowed us to grow together. Just a lot of special teammates through that. I think as a player, that was the pinnacle of my career. Segueing to Dallas, I think it was, I probably expected it to be easier to move teams than it was. And just kind of finding my way in Dallas, I think, is something that I'm proud of. But really the whole journey I'm proud of, just because I've been forced to adapt. I was forced to change as a player throughout. My role in Toronto was very different than my role was in Ottawa. And, you know, I'm proud of the fact that there were some dark days where I didn't know what I was as a player and how I was going to be and how I was going to stick around and how I could contribute. But one thing I always tried to do is just be very authentic. And I just tried to be myself all the time. You know, I care deeply about my teammates. I love the game. I'm passionate about it. And it's really given me everything I have in life. So I'm proud of the whole thing. I think there's a disappointment in there too, without being able to win and culminate my career with the Stanley Cup. I think that's something that will always be in the back of my mind. But I just tried to be myself the whole way. I think I just love the game. I love my teammates. I love getting to know my teammates. And I think what I'm proud of is I didn't really take a day for granted in this league, whether when I was in my prime or at the end when I was in a completely different role. So I think just being authentically myself is what I'm most proud of.
Thanks, Jason.
No problem.
Next, we'll go to Luke Fox with Sportsnet. Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, I'll just echo the congratulations on your career, Jason. You were saying that the most important things are family and hockey in your life. Can you share about when you told your mom and dad that you were going to stop playing, or when you told your daughters that you were going to stop playing?
Yeah, I think my wife and daughters, they're so unselfish that they just worried about me, and they worry about how I'm going to cope and how I'm going to be. But, you know, for me, I worry about them and make sure they're getting enough time with dad and husband for my wife. But I'm very fortunate that, you know, we're a hockey family. And they've been able to start their life here in Toronto and move forward, but also, you know, helping me a lot along the way. You don't have any sort of success at all without family in this sport. And my wife and kids are just the absolute pillar for me. I think probably the hardest conversations that I've gotten older have been with my dad. You know, he's a guy that he loves the game as much as I do. So, you know, him and my mom, they still come to every game. They drove around the rinks in junior. It's their life too. So to know that it's over, it's not just over for me, it's over for them. So that's hard because I know how much joy they get out of tuning into the games and watching. So it's all just hard, and it's all difficult to have those conversations, but we're all very realistic people, and we know that life moves on and the game will move on without me. And all I can do now is work towards, you know, the next goals, and that'll start with just day one, getting into the office and trying to feel comfortable. So I'm a person that is very fortunate that I've had a great career and a strong family behind me. And it really is a family effort.
And when your teammates look back on your career, what would you love them to say about you and the way you played?
I would just want them to say that I gave it my all every day, that I always try to connect with my teammates. I love the game. I would hope they recognize that I love the game. And I think that I would just try to be myself every day. I don't think I ever put on an act. I don't think I ever tried to be someone that I wasn't. I think if you can be vulnerable to your teammates and show them, you know, who you truly are, I think that creates a stronger bond and stronger friendships. And my best friendships are through hockey, and that's no mistake.
We've got two more here. We'll go back to Lance Hornby of the Toronto Sun. Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah, Jason, I just wanted to say on behalf of the Professional Hockey Writers Association chapter in Toronto to thank you for all your cooperation through the years, both here and in Ottawa and Dallas.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Last one here, we'll go to Kevin McGran, Toronto Star.
Yeah, I was just fact checking on the wooden stick thing. Like, when was the last time you used it?
The last time I used a wooden stick, I'd have to for sure on dates, but I think we're like
First season.
2010, 2011.
Something like
I think was the last season. I don't know. I could probably check it and let you know.
All right.
But yeah, sometime around then. So